So I was asked to speak to you today about the work that the city of Surrey does in area of welcoming immigrants and inclusive and welcoming communities. And this topic is very dear to my heart because you can hear from my accent, I'm an immigrant myself, and I do feel very fortunate to be able to work in this area. So I work with City of Surrey for the last year and a half, and I'm going to skip my overview just for the time. So Surrey is located in British Columbia. We are the second largest municipality in the province and the fastest growing community in BC. For those of you who are familiar with Vancouver, it takes about 30 minutes to get from Vancouver downtown to Surrey. So we have approximately 1,000 new residents coming to our community every month. So most of the growth comes from newcomers settling in this community. So in terms of the size, we are the largest municipality in BC. We are the size of Vancouver, Burnaby, and I think Richmond all together. And so the size of the community brings its opportunities and challenges. So in terms of opportunities, we see a lot of urban development and growth happening, but it also brings some challenges in terms of it is difficult to grow settlement service infrastructure at the same speed as the community grows. And also transportation is a big issue because many newcomers tend to settle in communities with more affordable rent prices, as it is in Surrey. And to give you an example, last year, a 3-bedroom apartment in Surrey would cost around $1,000, and in Vancouver, it's approximately $2,000, so it's a huge difference. And so newcomers will tend to settle in communities with kind of affordable housing, but then they usually often don't take into account the cost of transportation and commute, and quite often it could be quite significant and the impact on their time and money. Surrey is known for its diversity. Over 40% of our population are foreign-born, and also additionally, while immigration rates and trends are kind of slowing down in British Columbia, we are seeing more immigrants coming to Surrey. In the last 10 years, there has been growth in about 10%. So we also have a large South Asian population, and in fact, 2/3 of all Punjabi-speaking residents in Metro Vancouver live in Surrey. And on this picture, on the slide, you see Vaisakhi celebration in Surrey, which is considered to be one of the largest outside of India, and there are about 100,000 people attending it every year. So finally, Surrey is also the largest recipient of refugees in British Columbia. In the last 5 years, we received over 25% of all government-assisted refugees who came to BC. Next, I'm going to share with you how the changes in demographics and increase in foreign-born population impacted the services that city provides. So in BC, in comparison with Ontario, for example, municipalities do not provide social services to the same extent. So most of the social services that we provide through municipalities, it's through our libraries and parks and recreation centers. And so the city has been quite responsive to the emerging needs of newcomers. And on this slide, you see just a couple of examples of new programming that has emerged in the last maybe about 5-6 years. And I'm not going to go through all of them, but I just wanted to highlight some. So over the last 5 years, the city has been offering free English conversation circles, and they've been offered in 10 different civic facilities, so in libraries and recreational centers. And so they're run by volunteers, but the city is in charge of registration and providing training to volunteers and also promoting this free service to newcomers. We're also offering bus tours to newcomers, so it's approximately on a monthly basis, about 20-30 newcomers are taking on those free bus tours to get familiar with civic facilities, and so they're taking to theaters, art centers, parks, recreational centers, libraries, just to kind of to get familiar and to know what kind of services are available and where they are. And RCMP, although RCMP is not a social service provider, but it does a lot of community outreach with ethnic communities. And to improve the safety in our community. And so I think what's important to mention, kind of what the common thread through all those departments is that all of them have a dedicated diversity coordinator staff. And so in fact, RCMP Surrey is the only RCMP detachment in Metro Vancouver with a dedicated diversity coordinator position. And from what I understood, in the next couple of months, they're going to expand their unit and add a police officer to their unit. So another important city's role in building welcoming communities is advocacy on behalf of the city. As I mentioned before, Surrey received the largest portion of government-assisted refugees, and we also have a large Iraqi and Somali community. And so there has been a concern among stakeholders in the community about the poverty rates with those groups. And so because of the government loans that we're all familiar with, refugees come to Canada with significant debt. And we know that Syrian refugees were exempt from this transportation and medical loan, but there are thousands and thousands of refugees out there who the first thing they get when they come to Canada is debt from the government of Canada. And so for the last 6 years, the city has been advocating to cancel the transportation and medical loans, or at least the interest rate on those loans. And so for those of you who don't know, Canada is the only country in the world that charges an interest on government loans to refugees. And so the city has been advocating to cancel this loan. So last year, we formally launched a petition to senior levels of government to cancel the loan, and we already have about 1,000 signatures. So starting in 2012, the city has assumed a leadership role in convening stakeholders to make Surrey more welcoming and inclusive. And for those of you outside of BC, the Welcoming Inclusive Communities Initiative was funded by the government of British Columbia for a number of years in different communities. And thanks to this program, the Surrey Welcoming Initiative developed a number of great community resources and tools, such as Myth-Busting Campaign on Refugees that was led by ISS of BC, and Cassie is here. And then there were videos developed by local youth on the experiences with discrimination in Surrey. And then there was a really great manual for workers, for educators working with refugee kids. And so there are lots of great resources, and they're all available on our website, Surrey Leap. And in 2014, we became a contract holder of the Surrey Local Immigration Partnership. So as all LEAPs were charged with convening stakeholders and then conducting community-based research and identifying the gaps in the community and developing the strategies that will address those gaps. But I think what's unique about Surrey Leap is that we're developing not one, but two strategies. So the first strategy is focusing on immigrant integration challenges in general and kind of trying to address those. And then the second strategy is actually focusing on settlement priorities specific to refugees in Surrey. So I think it's quite unique among LEAPs. So our LEAP is chaired by Councillor Villeneuve. The same councillor, actually I forgot to mention that the petition that we formally launched last year is led by Councillor Villeneuve, and you saw a picture of her on the previous slide. And so the LEAP is chaired by Councillor Villeneuve and Anita Huberman, who is the CEO of the local Board of Trade. And our committee is composed of 30 member organizations, and most of them are represented by senior executives in their agencies. We also have and formed the Surrey Immigrant Advisory Roundtable, and it's a really great group of local residents. All of them are refugees or immigrants, and all of them residents of Surrey. And so they come from 16 different countries, and they bring very diverse professional and immigration backgrounds. So we have somebody who's been in Canada for less than a year, and he's already a co-chair of the group. And then we have people who've been in Canada for over 25 years. We have somebody who is really young and in his late teens, and some members who are over 65 years old. And it's a really great group to explore as a case study for those researchers who are interested in kind of exploring immigrant leadership capacity in the community. So have we seen any systemic changes? I think it's a bit early to say. We are only in our second year of the LEAP, but we think that there are some important factors that will contribute to these changes over time. So the first one is the city role. Because the LEAP is led by the city, it is being taken quite seriously by our external stakeholders, so we do have quite a bit of credibility in the community. And also internally, because it is chaired by, thank you, Councillor Veleniuk, our work is on radars of our city manager, our mayor office, and council members. And it probably would have been different if a staff member was assigned to be on a committee. It would have been just, in the eyes of the city, it would have been just another committee that the staff goes to, as opposed to that's something that the city is taking on. We also see more involvement from different departments in the city. We have 5 departments directly involved in the work of the LEAP. And so, for example, our HR department, because of their membership on Surrey LEAP, they got connected with Immigrant Employment Council of BC, and they became one of the first municipalities in the province to participate in the Connector program, where city employees were helping immigrant professionals to expand their professional networks. Additionally, we think that our staff is better informed. Our Immigrant Advisory Roundtable provided quite a bit of feedback on a number of processes in the city. Only in the last probably about 4 months, they provided input on online volunteer application form, for example, or another one was the process of approval of community gardens in the city. And so they provided their input from newcomer perspectives, so how to make access to those processes easier for newcomers in terms of language and accessibility. And then finally, thanks to the support and connections of Surrey LEAP partners, our Immigrant Advisory Roundtable has recently organized a welcoming to newcomers event. It took place this fall and attracted over 200 people. And so on this slide, you can see some activities that took place at this event. And we think that it's a great event, not just because of the event, also it was an awesome event. We think it's great because of the process leading to organizing this event and contributing to building immigrant leadership capacity in the community. So this group applied to a number of different funders, received funding from 3 groups. They did solicit sponsorship with local sponsors, and they partnered with 15 community partners with 6 city departments, and they involved 25 resident volunteers. So as a result, they're planning to organize another event welcoming refugees to Surrey, and they're currently applying for funding. So another important role of the city that we identify is a convener. So as I mentioned before, we do receive a lot of government assistant refugees in the province, and in the light of Syrian refugees crisis, the city convened a planning group to facilitate a more coordinated response to settlement of Syrian refugees in Surrey. So at the first meeting that took place last week, we had about 20 people. And then the next one that will take place next week, we already have about 50 stakeholders who express their interest to attend and participate and be involved. So in terms of the key learnings, so we experienced firsthand the importance of having senior leadership involved, and not only involved, but actually to lead our initiative. Because Councillor Veleniuk was on board, we were able to bring senior business leader in the community and to co-chair this table. And also, typically we have over 30 people attending our meetings, and people try to come early to be able to sit at the table because we don't have enough chairs for all the people to sit. And then we also learned that having good quality communication materials are important. So on this slide, you see our first newsletter that was produced last year. And so we produced about 6 newsletters, several fact sheets, kind of providing a bit more information on demographics in Surrey and some kind of more compile research findings. We also have about 700 residents and stakeholders on our e-distribution list. And we have our website, and we've just recently launched a blog where residents and stakeholders could write on the blog. So we also felt that having a city staff position on the LEAP embedded in city's infrastructure helped to engage more city staff in our work. In terms of the challenges, so I just thought that I have several, but I'm going to mention only one. So in terms of the challenges, we find it a bit difficult to manage stakeholder expectations with respect to city's role in the area of newcomer settlement. So the city assumed the role of the leader and kind of contract holder in the LEAP. The expectations of service providers are rising in terms of what the city could and should be doing. And very often we have limited capacity, resources, and also jurisdiction over these matters. I think that's all for today. Thank you very much.